All right, this is episode 18 of the Well-Rounded Wealth podcast. Welcome back, as we always like to say. Patrick, what do you got for a goofy opening this time around? Switch it up a little bit.
What's up, guys? How's everyone doing? I'd like to put this on the screen if anyone's watching. Thank you, AG1, for just this drink. We're not sponsored, so.
Yeah, we'd like to thank Athletic Greens for they're not sponsoring this, but we'd like to thank them, and we're going to pretend that they are. We'd also like to thank Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Sprite for just supporting us all the way. It's amazing that we have all these incredible sponsors. But really getting into it. So for this episode, we want to talk about kind of living in the past. This episode was my idea to talk about because I recently went to an alumni event at my college a couple weeks ago. And afterwards, I called you about it, Patrick, because I was just thinking a lot because I had a long car ride home. And I was kind of just thinking about going back somewhere where you used to be, where you used to belong. For example, like a college where you had 4 years at that place, and then kind of that feeling of going back to it when your time is technically done there, when you've graduated. Yes, it was an alumni weekend, but I had a great time, but some things I just was really thinking hard about, especially is it healthy to come back here, to keep coming back here, to live here? Is there a line? And I kind of want to explore all of those things, not just for going to college or high school reunions, but just in general, trying to live in the past. So, Patrick, I have a question for you. Have there ever been times where you have realized that maybe you've lived in the past too much? And if there is, why did you realize that?
For me, I think the biggest kind of call outs of living in the past are things where you kind of have the victim mentality, or where you think, oh, something in this situation was wrong to me. So whether it's a relationship, or you lost someone, or you got fired, or something along those lines, I think that's where living in the past can be dangerous if you keep reminiscing over it and asking yourself, what could I have done differently, or what could I have done to change this? The fact of the matter is, it's not going to change because it has already happened. So I think learning the lessons from whatever that situation, and then learning the right lessons are important from those situations, and then taking those and moving forward to whatever your future holds, or whatever the present holds. And a great example of this for me has been relationships. So I get pretty. I would say when I do get in a relationship, I get pretty attached and want to be the best partner I can. And then when it ends, you have so much time and effort invested, and you ask yourself, oh, what went wrong? What could I have done better? And oftentimes it's not you, or it's not purely you. It's a combination of, hey, where you are in life right now and where that person is in life right now just didn't match, and that's okay. But what small things did you enjoy about it? What small things did you not enjoy about it? And take that as a lesson to learn going into the next relationship. So I think a lot of people, especially myself, just get hung up on the fact that if something didn't go your way, then it's your fault. And I think it's a dangerous way to think that. And I was looking at some psychology studies, and that can actually trigger anxiety and stress.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just more looking at it as, hey, this is just a facet of life, and you just got to take those lessons. But I'm curious for you, what in this situation, I think specifically going back to Elon, triggered that thought of, hey, living in the past or revisiting things that were part of your past environment, what are some good aspects of that, and what are some negative aspects of it?
So I would say a big positive is just reuniting with people that you spent that time with and getting to reminisce on that time, where I was starting to feel a little weird. Maybe I was just there a day too long because I almost started to feel like I was back in college and not just visiting for a split second. And that made me feel really weird because then it almost felt like I'm trying to not move forward and I'm just trying to stay stagnant. So going back somewhere definitely felt kind of weird to me. And I kind of had that realization just the last morning when I woke up, and it felt like back in the old times where we just had a crazy fun night and we woke up hungover and not feeling great, which I've definitely been having much better sleep since graduating college. So just that it brought me back into that mentality of years ago too. And I was just thinking, this isn't, we don't belong here anymore. This time, it's great, but the negative, I think, versus the positive, the negative is when you're trying to grasp on to the past and trying to relive the past. I think it's really healthy to reunite and reminisce and have reunions. But I think when you're trying to go back and not think about what your life is, where the track of your life is now, where the trajectory of your life could be, and just trying to ignore it, that's just a scary thought to me in general. And it's scary.
So I think a great point you made here is trying to relive it. I think that is where, or I'm not going to say I think, I know that's where people mess up. Because we've talked in some of our earlier episodes about memory dividends. That's the important part. Those are the times when you're with your boys or you're with your girlfriends and you're like, dude, remember when Jack was an idiot that one night? And
Yeah.
But you don't need to relive that night or relive those type of scenarios where you're putting yourself in those situations. That happened in the past, and it's great to revisit those memories because the feelings you get from those memories are oftentimes the ones you're talking about are great. They're funny. They're vulnerable. They're exciting. Whatever positive emotions that are coming
nostalgic.
from those. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Great word. Those are the important ones where you can continue to revisit those. But if you're constantly trying to relive those, then you're just going to let yourself down because, one, you're not in that phase of life anymore, and two, you can never relive or you can never live up to the expectations of what the scenario brought you in your mind. It can be different, but it's never going to be the same as what you've experienced initially.
Yeah, totally. I did it. I always do that. You listeners know I always say totally agree. But I do. And another point I wanted to make on that of why do you think, it's kind of rhetorical, why do you think we try to live in the past sometimes or try to recapture rather than just reminisce? And I think fear plays a big role in it. So kind of going back episodes on our discussion of fear, because I think the reason you want to relive in the past is because you fear what's ahead. I think that's, at least for me. So maybe I caught myself trying to do that and realized I shouldn't be doing that. Because I was so excited to go back to college because life has been stressful. And I was like, okay, here's a weekend that I just don't have to worry about stuff.
Wait, so what brought upon the fear? Or what do you think brought upon the fear or that notion?
I think it's the fear of uncertainty, if that makes sense, or just, how things will turn out and the stresses of pushing forward with your life. I thought this will be great to just have a weekend where I don't have to worry about that for a couple days, And once I was there and doing that, I remember once I woke up and it was time to go, I was thinking to myself, yeah, it's time to go. Then I felt, all of a sudden, I felt like I was wasting time. And looking back, it's good to have weekends like that. It's it's not a bad thing to do that. But I guess I'll say this. I was looking around and I saw some other people that I could tell were complacent. We've talked about this too. You know how it just kind of feels uncomfortable when you're around people that are very complacent in their current way of doing things, and when you're not entirely on the same page. I don't know. It's kind of a feeling of discomfort. Can you talk about it? Because I know you get it too.
Yeah, I this is one of my biggest misnomers for how I know if someone's going to be a good friend of mine or continue being a good friend of mine is if I want to be around people that are ambitious and look forward to living for situations in the future, not reliving situations in the past. I love catching up with you guys and other people, other friends on what happened in the past, but only for brief moments because I'm more excited of what I can do now or in the future. So that's difficult for people our age with this mindset.
It's difficult for everybody. There's not a single human being that's not difficult for, I'd imagine. It's not easy for me.
Yeah. And I guess the kind of screening I have, or when I know that I'm kind of outgrowing someone, is when they're constantly wanting to repeat the same actions or same events or same type of scenarios without trying new things. So, I mean, a great example for people in their 20s is, I'm out of college. I have all this freedom now. I have a little bit of money. Let's go out to the bar every weekend. Every weekend. And yeah, it's great. The same thing with visiting Elon. It's great to do that occasionally. But if that's all you look forward to every single weekend or every time you get a free, whatever it is, free time, then that's not really where I want to go. And it's great. Some people might really enjoy that. But looking at a lot of people's comments on what they wish they had done earlier in life, it's, yes, those times are enjoyable, but I wish I didn't do it as much. I wish I had focused on other things because now is your time as a 20 or even 30-year-old, if you don't have a ton of responsibilities, to go and try new things. A bar is always going to be there.
Yeah,
Trust
true.
me. So
They really are.
yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of my framework on that. And it might be a little bit contrarian because people could question, hey, why don't you just enjoy the present and enjoy...
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah. Yeah, why don't you speak to that? Because I think I'm a little bit more extreme when it comes to being ruthless with my time and being like, I'm not doing this every weekend. So
Yeah, I'd say my kind of an error of the way I was thinking about something like my college alumni weekend was that that was the thing that I was excited for throughout probably like a month before it happened. That was the thing that I was looking forward to. I was
What-
kind of
what
like
thing?
just
The going out?
going back and to my college and seeing my friends and stuff, which obviously makes sense. Of course, that's an exciting thing to go back and see friends you haven't seen in a while. But I think the error of my thought process was I was thinking, okay, get through this day because that'll be one day closer to that event, rather than let's have a great day today. Let's be excited about what we're going to do today. It was kind of get through this, do the things you got to do, and you'll get there. So I was kind of just I was just waiting and waiting and waiting till this event happened. And that's kind of almost a living in the past, right? Because you're just craving what used to be rather than things are new, let's crave the new. let's try to enjoy the new. Yeah, it's hard, but let's try to enjoy it and realize I need to realize where I am right now. I would say that was the that was kind of what made me feel uneasy. So once I got there and once it happened and it was time to go back, I was just kind of thinking, I put way too much emphasis on this weekend in my head and on this event. And now it's over. But I was thinking, okay, no, I need to get back at things. I actually shouldn't have been I kind of prioritized it in my head of things I'm looking forward to rather than I'm looking forward to making jumping new hurdles at work or making new connections or meeting new people and starting to push forward and carve out a new life.
So,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. And a question I want to ask is, do you think you set the wrong goal in looking at this weekend as a kind of escape or a relaxation weekend? Do you think you went into it with, yeah, I mean, maybe it's not the wrong goal, but the wrong intent behind it?
Yeah, because I think those are good weekends to have. You know, even yesterday, I kind of took a breather, and it was really nice just to kind of sit and relax and do some mindless things. That's great. And I also probably, if I'm available, will go to another alumni weekend because my friends are going to be there. I still have friends that I don't get to see much anymore, but that's a weekend where, you know, we can plan for and see each other. So that's great. But yeah, I would say the error is I don't like the idea of I'm only doing what I'm doing now for an escape, for a weekend where it doesn't matter. I'd much rather have a mindset of I want to work really hard because I like the work I'm doing and I want to produce really good results in the work I'm doing and take some personal pride and have that be an outcome and have that be a motivator rather than let's get through the week, you know, let's even at a smaller level, you know, people that are doing Monday to Friday, there's like, I just got to get through Friday so I can go out to the bar for the weekend and just have fun, which again, I don't disagree with going out and having fun and hanging out with people. That's so important. But I think sometimes for a lot of us, for me included, back in college, in class, I was always so excited for the weekend. I didn't want to be in class. I want to be hanging out with my friends and having fun.
The people who live for the weekend, that is
exactly, yeah.
That was a big fear of mine and big decision maker in mine on why I switched job, because I think that's such a toxic mindset to have. If you find yourself in that situation, and this is my opinion, that I'm speaking from experience here, get out of it. Because what are you doing? It means that you are not excited about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So you are constantly in this loop of, I have to keep going to this job or this thing that I don't enjoy so I can have a small blip of something that feels like is in my control. And that's the weekend, because no one's telling you what to do. And I've asked people about this. I've asked my roommate and other friends about this, because they get to the weekend, they're like, oh, I like doing stuff on the weekend or hanging out with friends. And that portion that they hang out with friends might be only 5 hours of the weekend. So they have an extra 43 hours or 40 hours of wake time during the weekend that they can be creating something that they actually enjoy to go and do. But when Monday hits, they like roll out of bed and they get ready and they're like, gotta get back to this job, or I gotta go deal with Susan or something like that. Susan, you know.
Susan. That's just funny because that's my mom's name.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Always dealing with Susan.
And just the thought of that, just walking through that situation, just seems like you're living life on autopilot where someone else is controlling your direction. And for me, that's sounds like a terrible life. I'm sorry, but I don't want to live for a daily action where I don't love it.
Yeah, and I would also say that it's not necessarily a bad thing to still be excited about weekends. Because even if you do love what you're doing, one thing that I've learned, especially starting my new job, I'm doing things I absolutely love to do. But work is still work, and you get tired. So it makes sense to look forward to just some relaxation. Because hard work is hard work, even if you're doing what you love. Sometimes you just need breaks. So I understand looking forward to that a
So
little bit.
I'm gonna take a little bit of a different stance on this
Okay.
because there's a good quote from Tim Ferriss, and he says, "What you should shoot for in life is your average Tuesday."
Okay.
Meaning, whatever you're doing or whatever you enjoy doing, you could do it on a Monday, wake up and do it on a Monday or a Tuesday, and love doing that. And for me, I do think it is important to have those relaxation periods. But I can go for a month or two, maybe three, and I could probably work every single day. And for me, work is something different than what the general population defines as work. And same thing for you with doing acting or video editing. The people who call work in the sense of I have to go do this thing that I don't want to do, that someone else is telling me to do, that is where I think people define work with a negative connotation. For me, work is I'm doing something on a daily basis that I enjoy doing because I know loving this journey and loving this process of growing and learning more is going to get me to where I want to be. And not only where I want to be, but it's going to make me the person I want to be in the future. So the people that you hear this, you hear this term, I love to work. I don't think they're defining it as I love to just slave away at a computer at a desktop. The people that love to work, in quotations for anyone who's only listening, is those people love what they do. And to speak to the general population, they have to call it work because that's what people associate that task with.
I'd say I don't disagree, but let's break down a very popular phrase that we've heard our whole lives, and it's if you do what you love, then you never really have to work a day in your life. You've heard this, right? I'd
Yep.
imagine everyone listening to this episode has heard this. Hang on, I have to sneeze, everybody.
Yahoo!
Never mind. It was a false. It was coming, and then it just didn't happen. It was about to. I felt it, and then it just didn't happen. But anyways, that phrase, if you're really doing what you love, you don't have to work a day in your life. I don't think that's true. But because think about this: if you really don't have to work a day in your life, then you're not making progress. Because you have goals, right? If you want to be really good at something, you have to work hard and improve on your skills to get there. Let's take acting, because that's kind of an art rather than something where you're grinding things out. But it's not just something that's fun. It's so fun, and I love it. So I love doing it, but I still consider it hard work when I have to sit down and memorize 3 pages worth of dialogue for a scene that I'm going to be doing. That's work. It's work I enjoy doing, but I'm still working a day in my life and focusing on my craft, trying to break down my character and find the beats and think how my character is feeling through this. What is the person who wrote this? What are they looking for? I like to play those games too, of how did they envision the character? Because sometimes you can tell how someone writes a character in a scene of what they're kind of going for on the vibe. I like doing that stuff. This is all stuff I like doing, but I do still consider it work in the sense of if I want to be a better actor or be better at something, I need to put in the hours. and work hard. I'm not so it's I guess the difference is people just go, well, I don't consider that work. I just love doing it. Which, okay, yes, and I do too. I really, and that stuff I said, I enjoy doing that stuff. But sometimes you don't always want to sit down and spend 2 hours memorizing lines. I like to do it, but for anyone to say that I just love memorizing things, I wish I could just sit around all day and memorize things. That's not true. That's even the best actors in the world won't wake up and say I can't wait to like memorize my lines. Sometimes probably yeah, but every day, no way. And I just think that translates to everything. Sometimes you get tired. Sometimes you get like just a little exhausted or overwhelmed. And if you're working hard, even if you're doing what you love, then you should be. That means you're working hard towards your goals.
Yeah, and I think it's bucketing what you're working on under a bigger umbrella. Because if you get super granular with what you enjoy and what work is, so if work is legitimately only when you're memorizing lines, then I think that gets hard to love on a daily basis. But if work is being a better actor or being an actor, there are list of things that encompass a better actor. So it could be body image, it could be vocalization, it could be comedy, a bunch of different aspects. So by you working on those different aspects, memorization, you are still working towards becoming a better actor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think being able to zoom in and out of what you're doing and then why you're doing it is important, and which is where I think those people that say they love to work, that's where they're really good at defining those actions, because they know those actions will make them a better actor, business person, surfer, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't mind, or they have different expectations and different perceptions on what the more mundane pieces of that work is.
I think we just have different mindset approaches to this right now.
Yeah.
I think we kind of do agree. What I'm saying is it is up to you to, I guess, for your perspective to consider what is work. So if everything that you're doing is you say is towards that goal that you want, so you don't look at it as work, then great. I guess the reason I don't do that is because the way that I look at it is if you want to be really good at something or if you want to be successful in anything, you have to work hard. Even if you're doing what you love, you got to work really hard for it and be very disciplined and regimented in that. So I still consider it hard work. I guess I just don't give work a negative connotation.
Yeah, exactly.
If that makes sense.
Yep, I see exactly what you mean, and
Yeah.
that's what we were saying with the people who go and are stuck in this loop of I work for the weekend because work has a negative association for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I go to work every day, but I know that the outcome of my work is positive, so I look forward to it.
Yeah. I'll get anecdotal here first. I'll come up with a scenario. I think it would be really cool to say, okay, let's say back to the acting profession. Let's say I'm on a TV show or a movie and I have this huge scene and I really want to understand my character, understand all the motivations, be really in it, be in my character completely and kill it. And I'll work really hard to kill this specific scene that we're shooting. And there's going to be pressure because maybe you have to really dig deep emotionally for this scene. And there's also a lot of money that is on the schedule. So you have to be tight. So you have to do a good job and be prepared and have you don't want to mess up, because if you mess up and take more and more takes, that's more and more time and money that your bosses are spending, because in the end of the day, it's all a business, right? So you'll have some pressure for sure, but you really want the scene to go well and you want to really do good. Say you put in all the work and the hours and you've done your research, you really understand your character and you've gotten to a place emotionally where you need to be to embody this character that you're playing and you kill it. You do awesome. And you're like, "Hell yeah, that was awesome. Doing what I love and I killed this." Okay, oh, Saturdays in a couple days. I'd love to call up Patrick and hang out with him and catch up with him. Like, I'll take a little break because I want to spend some time with my friends too and just relax a little bit. Maybe go out and grab a drink, grab some lunch, and hang out. Or let's go to a basketball game. Switch it up. So you're not looking forward to that. You're not doing the work. You're not prepping for a scene because you just want to get through it and so I can hang out with you or go to a basketball game. That's not the goal. The goal was to really hone in on my craft and do a really good scene. And I did that, and that's awesome. But now it's like, okay, oh, I have some free time. I'd love to catch up with my friends and spend time with the people I care about as well.
I am honestly still working on that.
Yeah.
Because I think that is a pitfall of mine. Not that I get, or I guess I get too focused on something. I do everything to the extreme. So,
Which I do too. And I know for a lot of my life, I'm going to be busy, and especially in that profession, you don't get weekends. You're shooting six days a week. If you're on a big project that's shooting for a while, you're grinding, and that's great. But then, once the project ends or takes a little break, then yeah, spend time with your friends. But you're not doing that entire project just to pay the bills so you can go out with your friends. You know what I'm saying?
You're just shifting your mindset around why you do what you do.
Yeah.
But that is because I mean I could lock myself in a room for a week and keep just going at something.
I can too. I totally can too, if need be.
Yeah. For example, last night I had a buddy I met, and you go through, oh, what are you doing this weekend? It's like, oh, whatever. And he's like, there's this charity event if you want to come. And I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll go. As opposed to locking myself in the room for the weekend. And
right.
Those things and having those people in your life are great, especially for people who are super ambitious and have crazy goals, because if I didn't have those type of people, then I probably would. And then I probably would just lock myself in the room for a certain amount of time and then eventually burn out and then take a big break and then get back at it. But I guess that's more the way I operate in terms of phases like that. I go super hard for an X period of time, and then I just take a step back and like decompress for a month or something like that. So I guess my way I operate is more on a macro level in terms of a micro level in terms of, okay, I'm going to work for 8 hours and then take a break, or work for 2 days and take a break. I'm more like I'm going to work for 3 months and then take a month break kind of thing. So I think, which if you look at high performers, especially athletes, I'll use because it's a great example. And you look at Michael Phelps talk. When he's talking about swimming, he knows that every day he's not in the pool, he technically takes 2 days back. And here's what I mean by this. Say he takes Sunday off. He now has to swim Monday to get back to where he was Sunday. And then Tuesday, he can make forward progress because it's an endurance sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked about this before, but expanding your time horizon on what success and achievement means to you lets you have a very different way of thinking about this thing we called working towards a goal.
Yeah. So we talked about in a recent episode of that what are our fears of regret, and we reference the David Goggins thing where he talks about, my one of my biggest fears is going to heaven, and I meet God, and he reads all these amazing accomplishments that I made, and I respond, I didn't do that, and he'll say, yeah, but that's what you were supposed to do. That's what you could have done. That's what you had the potential to do. But I wonder let's take it the other way of not what people who didn't make something of their lives to that degree and make something out of it and regret it at the end. But what about the people? There are people who work so hard, some of the highest achievers in this country, and get to the end and say, you know what, maybe I should have made more time for my family and for my friends, and I should have been able to enjoy the little moments with them. But I didn't make that time because I was so focused on working and grinding and working and grinding and having these accomplishments that I didn't make time for that. This is kind of, I'm taking it back into that routine versus flexibility, that conversation that we had last week too, because I think that's kind of what it's also getting at is I think it's both unhealthy if you aren't working hard or working towards any aspirations and just staying on a even surface, not trying to go up any hills or anything like that. But I also think it could be unhealthy if that's all you're doing. You're only focused on going up and up the mountain and not understanding that you can take breaks and sorry. And yeah, we have our passions, but you can ask yourself, what am I doing this for if I have no one around me anymore? Because sometimes you can go so up and up that hill because you're just chasing and chasing because you're a hard worker, which I do think is good. But if you don't take any breaks, maybe one day you'll realize there's no one around you anymore. It's just you.
Yeah, great point. And I actually tweeted about this yesterday or a few days ago because there's a dichotomy to this, to what you're talking about. And it's being able to enjoy the work or the suffering, but also the small little beautiful things. And I think where people get in trouble is those people that work and they just grind and grind and grind and grind. When they're not working, they're so stressed about the progress that they could be making while working that they don't allow themselves to be present. And there's a good quote from a book, it's called The Way of the Warrior. We will never know peace because we are trapped in the past and paralyzed by the future. Mm-hmm. So, I guess paralyzed in this situation isn't the right word, but focused on the future. Those people are always depriving themselves of the present in certain situations or in the variability of situations because they're always thinking about work or the progress that they could be making. Mm-hmm. And the reason I tweeted something along the lines of that was because I was working, I was going to a property and working on that, and I was enjoying that because it's part of the process of getting better and getting to the goal we want to reach. But then I was also driving back and looked around and saw the leaves falling. It's fall. It's really pretty in Charlotte right now. I was like, oh, wow. Maybe this is what is peace and what life is about. It's being able to zoom in on the hard work when you're doing the hard work and being at peace with that. And then also the moments that have little beauty. So being around friends, being in nature, experiencing something new, also being able to see the beauty in that. And I think that all just comes down to presence. So how intentional are you with your presence and where you are right now?
Are you asking me, or is that rhetorical?
No, yeah. You good, yeah. I'll ask you. Both. I think
okay.
For me it was a good note, but I also want to hear your thoughts on it too. Because that is something that I've realized, and it's not. It takes training to get to that point, because I definitely give it 2 years ago. If I was working really hard on something and then started driving down the road and seeing leaves falling, I wouldn't have been like, oh wow, those pretty leaves. I'd been like, I got to get to this next place to do the next thing, but being able to pause and be present where you're at is great, and you got to be able to go in and out of that presence.
I definitely think
That's
you
the
need to go
difficult
in
part.
and out. Because I'll say this, a lot of times in college, especially sophomore, my second year of college, I was very much the opposite of you. Well, not opposite, because you're more focused on the future. I was only focused on the present. Only focused on the present. I didn't want to worry about the future. I didn't want to think about the past. I was fully focused on just being present, and that was great for a time. I really enjoyed that for a time. It was nice. You visited a couple times, I don't know what your perception of was that, but I was just focused on, living life, having fun with my friends, just having a good time. I wasn't focused on working really hard towards a greater goal. I was literally getting through the year and just, I was focused on getting good grades, which I got, but I'll admit, I didn't have to work that hard for them. I just had to make sure I wasn't fucking up rather than wanting to do well and working to do well. I was just making sure I was not fucking up, essentially. That was all I was doing for like the second half of my sophomore year of college. And that actually also started to get a little depressing of just wanting to be in the moments. Because then I started to ask myself, what's the point? We're just doing the same thing all the time, And it's so great. I made some great memories with some of my friends during that period of time. But yeah, like I said, the idea of just staying complacent and not having a trajectory, not having aspirations, I was kind of like that also was unhealthy. So as much as I think is that it's important to stay present, I think it's also important to be working towards some aspirations too. Like we're getting on it the same thing, but from different angles because we both had different mindsets. We're trying to meet in the middle. I feel like.
So, question for you: do you think being at peace and being present is a better way? Well, let me see how to phrase this. Is just being completely present with yourself and your environment a better way to live for you as opposed to being able to look ahead at the future and making a impact on those around you?
It's a really good question. I don't know if I can pick an answer of one or the other right now. Because, for example, I'm not at a place where I have made that impact on others that I want to make. We're both on that journey right now of trying to get there. So I can't really answer, I can guess, but I haven't had the experience in both of those to really know what that answer is. The way I look at it, I'll say this, is that, well, let's say you just keep going and then you reach all of your goals and you get up there. You don't need to worry about money anymore. You have more than enough to cover yourself, so it's not a stress in your life anymore. Let's say you knock that out. You're also doing something that you really love and you got really good at it and you have admiration for it, like a lot of respect in doing in what you do. So you're known to be really good at what you do and you enjoy what you do. Well, then once you get there, then you'll be like, oh, okay, well, now I'm here. What now? So I guess I question what it's like when you get to the top. Or whatever your definition of the top is. Because I've heard it a million times in a lot of successful people. They realize it's lonely.
Yeah, at the top.
Yeah.
So there's a good quote from Alex Hormozy on this, and he says, "You've already achieved things that you said would make you happy." And I thought that was a really good way to look at stuff, because even it could be little things too. For me, like the Iron Man, that was I loved that whole experience, and it was amazing to go through it, the actual race day. But when I crossed the finish line, it was super exciting and super fulfilling, but it wasn't this massive parade of, you know, fireworks going off, getting showered with whatever. So I was like, what of that whole process did I enjoy more? Did I enjoy crossing the finish line? Did I enjoy racing? Or did I enjoy training?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I enjoyed looking back and reflecting on it. I I think I enjoyed the training part more and the actual pursuit of that goal. So it's a mix of picking the right goal and then also knowing that the journey towards that goal is the most fulfilling because that's when you're in flow.
Yeah.
That's when you can really hone down and be like, oh, I know I'm grinding right now. I know I'm going at it, and this is awesome. And yeah, there'll be a little nugget at the end, but I can keep doing this over and over and over and over again.
Okay. I follow that completely. I do. And I guess the motive, I think, is a big factor in that, right?
Mm.
Because, well, I'll ask you this. Why did you decide to run an Ironman? I'll answer in just a sec, but was it because you just have always wanted to do one? It was because you wanted to be able to say that you did one? Do you just love running and swimming and biking and wanted to do a big event that involved those? So I just give you categories, but what's your answer?
Yeah, good question. Uh, at the time when I decided to do it, I had the mindset of I saw someone do something crazy, and I was like, I know I can do that.
Yeah.
Who's to say that I'm not better or whatever? And I also wanted, for me, it was a two-way street. I wanted to do something hard for myself just because I enjoy doing that, and I think there's growth in it. But also, you guys have heard me say this, and you've heard me say this. I like to live by this quote is when your mind and body are connected, your possibilities are limitless. So I wanted to do that, and that was my whole kind of driving force or why behind it is to show others that, hey, no matter where you are, you can, your body is capable of incredible things. And I had never road biked before. Hadn't swam in 10 plus years, and I had just run my first marathon. So, and granted, I was physically fit, but you can do crazy things. You just have to realize that the time and the effort that are required to get there. And reflecting back on that whole journey, I enjoyed the journey of it. So that's why I like now choosing and shifting my mindset around what are things that I can do for 10, 20, 30 years. What are those goals so that I can always be in that pursuit of it?
Okay.
So,
Yeah, that makes sense. I relate to that, and I understand that.
have you found something like that?
I would say I don't know if entirely to your degree. So, for example, I shifted away from jump roping just because I wanted to get back into weightlifting for fitness,
Mm.
and I don't want to like just never go back to it. I actually want to go back to it kind of soon and do it again. But for me, it was reaching a point where I had my goals for the jumping rope, and I achieved a lot of them. I had a big one that I hit near the end of college. That was I didn't know if I didn't know if I could do it, but I just kept jumping rope and I hit my benchmark. Then it started to get to a point where I was thinking, okay, how much more goals do I really need? Like, I get
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I was like, at what end? Because I was like, what I'm doing now, I can't be burning much more calories if I tried, and I can't. I could up the weight, and that was probably like on the ropes. That was probably gonna be what I was gonna do next before I switched. But it was getting to a point where I was thinking, okay, what I'm putting into this, I kind of want to get, and I started to want different things for my body. So I just shifted away from it because I thought, oh, you know what, I actually want to build more muscle and doing jump rope routines, intense jump rope routines where it's kind of hard to fit in other body weightlifting workouts. It wasn't going to service that new goal I had. So it wasn't, I guess I'm trying to relate that to running an Ironman. I guess I haven't lost interest because I love it, but I kind of realized it wasn't serving what I wanted to get out of physical exercise anymore, if that makes sense.
The net benefit of doing that specific exercise wasn't higher than the cost, basically.
Yeah, I guess essentially. I guess, well, also you've migrated too. I guess I was just thinking, trying to relate, is there something that I just want to keep doing and doing and doing and never, never, never stop? Because I had that in jumping rope for a while, but then I haven't done it in like probably a couple months now because I was just realizing I want to do other things for physical exercise. I didn't really have a lot of time. And if anything, that was deterring from my new goals. I guess I just wanted new things.
Yeah, which is completely fine. And
Yeah.
and connecting us all to living in the past, that is one of the hardest things that you're touching on is you got a lot of enjoyment out of doing it in the past. But it's okay to be in a new phase, a new season of life where that happened during that season and it was amazing. But reliving those same actions might not get you the same feeling as it did originally. So doing an Ironman it's a lot of work and it might not get me the same adrenaline rush and endorphin kick that I had initially. So yeah, that's a kind of a balance equation that everyone has to figure out for themselves on if there's something I enjoyed doing in the past. Is it something I want to revisit because I really want that feeling again? And am I just doing it to say I'm back in this, or because I truly enjoy it?
Yeah. I'm just thinking while you're talking too of, sometimes I think it's okay to switch things up or go on different paths. You don't need to be an Ironman runner for the rest of your life, or swimmer and biker and runner. But like that's not, you don't need to lock yourself into that just because, yeah, it's something you love, but you don't need to keep doing it. And it's okay to switch it up and try new things. I think is a big thing.
Great point you bring up. So I've been thinking about this is look at it as sort of a tree. Okay. So your main goal is the stem of the tree, like
Okay.
that one thing. But you can break off and do a bunch of little things, and that's kind of how I'm looking at the things I want to pursue. And it's a mix of do the one thing that you love. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's kind of the tree. That's the stump. And then all these other little things, going out with your friends and traveling, going to Europe, skydiving, paragliding, wakeboarding. All these are the little branches that go off.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to find that one thing, and I think I'm starting to find it. I'll keep you updated.
Sounds good.
But I want to find that one thing that I love doing, but that also gives me the flexibility to say, oh, wow, this looks really cool. That's something that humans have created or that's in nature that I want to go explore. And it could be a 1-2 year exploration where I'm growing off of the tree and it's a big limb, or it could be a little tiny little spurt. It's like, nope, I tried that, not for me, and that's okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people, especially, I mean, older people like our parents, I think a lot of their stems become their families. And that's because that's what they love. And that's what they do. And I know a lot of people that do have family at their stem are really happy.
Yeah,
And all of a sudden, the other goals that you have, not that they become irrelevant. And a lot of family people still have hobbies and things like that that they still love to do. But at the end of the day, they're not doing what they're doing because they love what they're doing. They start to do what they do for their family. Because all of a sudden, we're in a place right now. Sorry, I'm thinking about this all at once. But you and I, especially, we just have ourselves to really worry about right now. You know, we're both living on our own. Currently, we don't have a partner. We don't have girlfriends right now. And we don't have going forward. We don't have fiancés. We don't have kids. And we don't have people that we're responsible for or people that we'll share mutual responsibility with. So right now, the stem of our lives, of this tree that we've created, is it's very self-driven and self-focused on our goals, which I do think is a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But for instance, I can obsess over things like acting because I'm the only person I'm looking out for right now. And I think maybe down the line, as much as I love it so much and I just want to learn more and more, I have a class tomorrow night and I'm legitimately so excited for the class tomorrow night. I can't wait. Like, I wish it was tonight. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with that. It's been awesome. But I do think one day I would hate to get to the very end and even say say I've just become a really good actor, or like I have gotten to a place where I am so proud and satisfied with my craft where I'm like, oh my God, I love this and I keep improving. I've gotten so good. Let's just say I become the best ever. Let's just say I become the best ever. I would hate, even though I love that, I would hate that to be my one purpose. And for that to have been my stem the entire time. I think I would love for eventually my stem to be a family. And while that's acting is still something I absolutely love, I wouldn't want that to be my number one only focus. I would love to have something bigger. I'd love to share with other people. I'd love to be responsible for other people. I actually think that that's one, humbling, but also I think it just gives new meaning. And I feel like it's the meaning. I can't explain that at a supernatural level, but there's just something about, to me, the idea of bringing new people in this world and getting to impart the life lessons that I have learned through my experiences, continuing the lessons that I've learned from my parents, that they learned from their parents and their parents before them, and then letting them forge their own paths too and learn for themselves while taking in the care and the, I guess, wisdom that I'll have gained by the time I'm caring for them, and watching them grow and just wanting to see them do their best, but also them getting to navigate and decide things for their own and decide how they want to live their lives. And then they can pass that down. I guess I'm talking at a legacy standpoint, but there's so much meaning in that to me. And I almost think none of my passions surpass the importance of that for me.
I'm going to take a stab at this analogy because I think it could be. So maybe your stem when you're younger is, think of the interior as your stem and then the bark. There's two components of that growth. So in the beginning, the the core of your tree is growing towards what you love to do, and the people you meet and bring with you along that journey are the bark. So they're protecting you and they're growing with you and they're coming along for your journey. But as you reach this new stage of life, and a great book on this is From Strength to Strength by Arthur C. Brooks, is you almost go through this transition where maybe the bark becomes the core, and then what you do is now in support for those people.
Yeah, I like that. And that's
Boom.
yeah. I do really like that. At least, and I like to say this a lot on these episodes, but that's at least what I like. That's what I think I want my tree to be. But I don't know if that's I'm not saying I think that's the definitive tree, that everyone should have. But as we've been talking, I feel like that's pretty on the right track. And as far as the family and kid stuff go, I don't want any of that anytime soon. Anytime soon. Like, not even kind of. I almost want another 10 years of not just being on my own, but before really committing to that, because I want to take a swing at life and take a swing at my passions. And it's just the truth that having a family at a young age, where especially when you're not in a place where you're happy with the things that you're doing or ready to support financially, it's going to get a million times harder to reach those aspirations that you have if you all of a sudden have more people to take care of. That's just logical,
Just wrap it, John.
That's not what I'm saying. I guess that is
I'm fucking with you.
that, I mean, maybe I guess I am in a weird way saying that, that I shouldn't get anybody pregnant. Which obviously I'm saying, even if I met like the most perfect, amazing
wait.
girl tomorrow, I want to wait is what I'm saying. Like,
I'm with you.
obviously I don't want any accidents to happen, but I'm saying I don't want that like until down the line. At least now, people say it's when you aren't looking for stuff, that's when it finds you. So who knows what I'll be saying in 5 years, but that's
Just a baby just show up in your door.
yeah. But yeah, eventually I want those things. And it's funny, I know a lot of people, especially girls that I've known, and they say kids is the last thing they want, which I totally get, because especially at the time, like being 20 or whatever, like especially for girls, they're actually carrying a child and going through life, permanent body changes, of course. But they would say even down the line, and I've heard multiple people say this, guys and girls, just people I know. They said, I don't want to bring a child into this effed up world.
Ooh, interesting.
I totally disagree with it, personally.
That's a hard one.
Really?
Because,
okay, I want to hear your thoughts.
So yeah, my thoughts on this are you going to deprive your future offsprings the chance to figure out life for themselves? And granted, they're not born yet or whatever, but you got the opportunity. Are you going to deprive someone that could have that the chance to figure out life for themselves and navigate this world, or to help make an impact on this world? I mean, I know this is a extrapolation, but take Elon Musk's mother. I didn't want to have a kid because I didn't want to bring him into this effed up world. But yeah, it's a risk. So bad things happen to good people, but good people also do incredible things. So
yeah,
I disagree with that.
yeah, I totally disagree with it, because
it's not our responsibility to bear a child. So
Yeah,
sure.
that too. I've heard guys that I know say this as well. And yeah, and also if you don't want to have kids, then you shouldn't have kids. Like, so I'm not saying that if you don't want to have kids, you actually should want to. If you don't
That's
want to
the
have
reason
kids,
behind
then
it.
you won't be a good parent if you have kids and you don't want to have, you know what I mean? You probably won't be an amazing parent if it's not something you want.
Yeah.
For me, it's something I know I want down the line. Like something that I really want down the line. And yeah, like you said, it is a risk. It always is, right? But I don't think that that's a really pessimistic way to look at things in general. It's very cynical, in my opinion, to say there's no point, or if the real reason is like I would love to have kids, but this world is fucked, so I don't want to bring in life to this world that we live in. This is a terrible world that we live in.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
That's pretty cynical to me. And I also that may not be the full reason either. That when people say that, you know,
Yeah. I'm gonna twist a quote here. It's from Sean Puri, he's an investor and he runs a podcast. But his quote is, "Cynics get to be right, optimists get to be rich." And the first part of that phrase I think always applies because cynics get to be right. If you're cynical about something and it doesn't happen or it does happen, then you can always be like, "Yep, told you so." But having enthusiasm and optimism in life is so refreshing, and that's what I'd love to look for in people because they have the perception that despite the negativity that gets blasted everywhere, they're like, "Yeah, but look at the upside." I think that's just such a better way to look at life. Is
yeah.
screw all the negative stuff that's happening. Let's focus on what could happen if everything works out great.
Well, think about this too. Would you, looking back on life now, would you have rather have not existed and experienced anything? Because that's the other option, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I every day I would take life instead of
nothing.
yeah.
It's like especially pre-existence, just nothing. It's like so when I've heard that argument, that was where my head went. Well, okay, so it's just yeah, that's the example. I was just thinking, I would rather have lived than not lived at all. And I've gone through some tough shit in life. It hasn't been all amazing sunshine and rainbows. I've had some hardships. I've faced some sadness and some depression and a ton of uncertainty. Still, we have uncertainty every day, still today. Plenty of stress. Yeah, things are hard. And life is hard, but I would take those hardships over nothing. And also because I've also had some amazing moments in life where the hardships, in my opinion, are worth it. That's just how life is. It's not a life with no hardships is also just not much of a life in general.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth it in the long run. We're literally talking about, is it worth it? Is existing worth it? That's essentially what I'm
Oh
saying.
yeah.
That's kind of funny. Now I'm realizing what we're discussing.
So this will get a little religious, but I'm not totally set on this belief that there's a afterlife, because we don't remember or we can't remember anything from when we weren't born. And as far as we know, that's exactly what it's like after we die. Is like your cognitive function leaves. So what do you have? So that's why I think moving through life and making decisions that are your choices are so much more freeing. And getting back to what we talked about at the beginning, like if you don't like the situation you're in, you have all the cognitive ability to change it.
Yeah.
It's just you gotta go do it.
Yeah. You don't always.
I don't know. I think you do.
What if you're in prison and you don't want to be in prison anymore?
Well, then that's your choice. You fucked up. You made the choice to sacrifice whatever to lose your freedom.
Yeah. What if you were wrongfully convicted of a crime you didn't commit?
Ooh, tough. Yeah.
That just sucks. You didn't do the crime, and you're in jail. Let's say it's like you murdered 1 million people. I'll make it absurd. Let's say you murdered. Let's say you murdered 1,000 people. That was what you got convicted of, and you've never hurt a fly. And then you're in jail for life, and you're thinking to yourself, I'd rather not be in this situation.
Get a spoon and start digging.
Yeah, you can always try, but I mean, if you've murdered 1,000 people, you're probably in the most secure prison hold there is. You also might get the death penalty, but let's just say you got life in prison. Let's just say that's what you got. You might. That's a situation you couldn't necessarily get out of.
Okay. Yes, it does. Okay.
What if you get murdered? You can't get out of getting murdered. You're dead.
Oh yeah. All right. I'm not talking on these extreme levels. But yeah, still though, I will, and people are probably going to be like, what the heck? No, how do you say that? Yes, bad things happen to people that you cannot change. But I will argue that the people, say the prisoner, you chose to also put yourself in that situation.
Yeah. So let's say if you're saying the person did murder 1,000 people.
Yes, or if they were wrongfully convicted, there is something that they did at some point in their life that put them in a situation where they could be. So whether it's association.
Wait, so you still blame the wrongfully convicted person for being at the wrong place at the wrong time?
Oh, I'm not blaming them. No. But there's definitely a series of choices that they made to get there. You know?
Gotcha.
And yes, that's unfortunate. I'm not arguing that's like,
fair or right.
Yeah, that's not right at all. So I don't want to get that confused. Tough, man. You put yourself there.
You chose to be right by the crime scene.
Yeah, exactly.
You idiot.
Yeah. So, yes, of course, there are some things that you cannot avoid. That's just like, wow, that was just shit. Yeah, like tough, man.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I think it's more of to the person that did put themselves in that situation. That is their fault. That is their ownership. You can't explain the mishaps that are, damn, a freaking meteor came down and hit you. Like, why were you standing there? Really? But anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Also, just tragedy does happen, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you lose things. That's no one's fault. You know, think about parents that have lost their kids to school shootings. That was nothing they did.
Everything happens for a reason.
I remember that episode, and I was thinking of all these kinds of scenarios in my head.
Yes.
But yeah,
is
tragedy
baked into life.
happens. Yeah, and it sucks, I think, and it's really hard, especially when you put especially losing family, losing your kids, losing your parents at a young age. That's really hard to get through, and to remember that there's still hope. That's the biggest thing, right? That can get you through that stuff. And obviously stuff like grieving and that entire process, but it's finding that hope and finding that drive to persevere. That's really fucking hard. I haven't experienced
Admirable.
anything like that before. That's so hard to get through. That's really admirable if you accept it. Still, that's nothing you can never truly move on from, I'd imagine. And also still have hope and still persevere and push forward and move forward. Moving forward is really hard to do sometimes.
Yeah, and in terms of tragedy and grief, I mean, I think I've thought about this more because I've thought about death a little bit more. But like preparing yourself or trying to prepare yourself for those situations. You'll never be fully prepared to lose someone, but right now, and I mean, hopefully, way way down the line, I'll be able to speak back to this. But the way I'm approaching it is, I'm going to be appreciative of the time that those people were with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so far that has just made my outlook on time and spending time with people that much more important. It's because when I look back after someone passes, I want to be able to remember those things, and I don't want to regret the one-off chance that, oh, I could have spent one more time with this person.
Yeah.
You know?
I also, when I think about death, this is a mindset that I've just, when I'm thinking in Jackland, if you will, I like to think, what if I died? Like, what, I put myself in perspective of the person dying, and let's just say I could be gone, but I could peek in to what's going on here after I'm gone. And I think, what would I want to see of the people close to me? I would want them to push forward. You know, I want my parents to push forward and still find happiness, and my siblings and family. If I had kids, I'd want the world for them. I wouldn't want them to just be sad about me being gone all the time. You know, maybe a couple tears at the funeral when it's still fresh. I would maybe I wouldn't. Yeah, maybe some nice speeches of how awesome I was.
Peace, dude.
And if it's only natural for people to grieve, I wouldn't want people to just. I wouldn't be like, stop worrying about me. I'm dead. Move on. That's what I would say if I could talk to people. But I would want them to get through it so much, and want them to push forward, and want them to continue having hope. That's what I would want if I passed. So, and I have a feeling for the people close to me, if they passed, they'd want the exact same things. They wouldn't want me to stop. They wouldn't want me to give up, or to, just lose hope. I like start asking myself, what's the point if they're gone? I know for a fact that people close to me would, even like when they're gone, I know they would want me to still push forward.
Yeah. That's why I think death is almost, I think a lot of people have, and naturally have a bad thought of it because of the emotions that will come immediately after. But I think it's also a very freeing thing once you realize what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you personally, you have the mindset of like, I know one day I will pass. So what are the things that I want to be? I want those who I'll have the biggest impact on to remember me for, and what things do I know I want to do in the time that I have here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And also, this is another thing I thought of. Back to tragedy. Dealing with that would be a lot. It would be a lot harder.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if someone did something to someone I cared about, like to my family, like I would want to go full Count of Monte Cristo and revenge, I know I'd get those thoughts. I want to hunt that person down. If someone did something to someone that there was no reason for it, that would be so hard. I would really struggle with that. I'd probably need therapy. I'm not kidding. I'd probably need therapy for something like that. If someone took someone from me and there was no reason for, it's just reasonless, and they just ended someone's life earlier than it needed to be ended. Oh my God, I'd want to hunt that person down.
Well, I think this is actually a good thing to wrap up on too, because it's I guess an aspect of living in the past. And yes, this is a very hard thing of living in the past, but it did happen in the past, especially if there's no reason and there's nothing you can or could have done about it. And immediately in the short term, yes, you're going to feel so much anger and revenge and hate, but I don't think that gets you anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And yes,
We've seen a lot of movies about this as well.
yeah.
And I referenced The Count of Monte Cristo. The book is about falling into revenge and how that can really corrupt your soul.
Yeah, because your driving force is behind something that happened in the past. So if you were to get revenge or whatever it is that you need, it's all based on something that happened in the past, which is depriving you from the present and the future. And I know trust me, I know this is way easier said than done, but I think it's good to talk about because it puts people, it allows us to maybe have a different framework when or if that time ever does happen.
I'll say this. I feel like if that did happen to me, and even hearing all of this, maybe it would help if I went back to this episode and listened to me say it again. But even hearing this, it's still hard. Like you feel how you feel how you feel. So even if you do know I shouldn't be feeling these things, it's only natural to be feeling sadness, anger, thirsty for vengeance. If you've been wrong, if you've been wronged, all of those, it's gonna happen. Like you said, you can't fully prepare for those things. If tragedy does happen, I know I'm gonna feel those things. Because it's just natural to feel those things. Even if I know I shouldn't, or that in the long run, those aren't healthy things to feel, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's just how long you allow it to happen and when to let go. And I'm just thinking of all the movies and because that's a lot of villain origin stories, trying to take revenge on something that happened in their past and going down a path where they're doing the exact same things and they're losing themselves.
Yeah, I think the villain uses that energy in the long run for bad, and then it can also be a start of a hero story. The hero uses that energy for good.
Yeah.
Think of Batman.
I was just about to say Batman. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
because he's interesting because if anyone doesn't know Batman, that's crazy. You're crazy. Go watch Batman. But real quick, he's a guy who his parents were murdered in front of him when he was like 7 or 8 or 9, and he obviously faces PTSD to this day because he dresses up like a bat and fights crime. And some of the stories in the comics get into the psychology of that, but he drew that line of the no killing, which is why it's a little ridiculous in media when, a superhero's fighting these bad guys. Like, you're like, oh yeah, that guy probably died. But when he threw that batarang into his eye. But and the reason that's there and that's a thing is thematically his no kill rule is what keeps him from losing himself completely and not crossing that line, which is because he doesn't want to reinflict the pain that someone inflicted on him of murdering the parents. He doesn't want to continue that, that snowball effect, that cycle of, I got hurt, so I'm going to hurt. He instead says, I got hurt, I'm going to use this pain to protect people from not having to feel what I had to feel and stop the bad from happening.
Yeah. I think
he's such a cool, interesting character because that's the psychology of that. But yeah, then the anti-hero, it was what I would call the Count of Monte Cristo. He does choose to I was hurt, so I want to hurt and get revenge. And that's his justification. But when you're reading that book or any revenge story, like Taken, when Liam Neeson's, trying to get his kid back who got kidnapped into human trafficking, you watch him kill those guys and you're like, hell yeah, kill those guys. Because they're a part of the most inhumane thing that you can pretty much do beside, that's at the top. Yep. So those are anti-heroes because you're like, yeah, they deserve it. Fuck them. I'm on this guy. So I get it, you can get it, but just, and obviously those movies work for, especially Taken, that works for what it is. But the theme, that's not the theme Taken goes. Taken just goes, Yeah, you want him to kill these guys and get his daughter back, so he kills these guys and get his daughter back, and it's awesome. But Count of Monte Cristo, it really gets into how he is losing himself throughout the story of his track for vengeance, which is, I think, which made that such an interesting story. It's one of the few books I actually read in high school.
That was a good book, actually.
Yeah, that was legitimately a good book. And yeah, and that it's been done in different ways and things like that, and it's always good. It's always interesting.
Yeah. Always a good storyline to follow. Well,
yeah. Should we wrap it?
Yeah, I was gonna say if you have anything else, but I guess to wrap it is like you have to choose to learn the lessons from your past instead of letting the situations and experiences consume you.
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. That's from a movie.
What movie?
That's from Star Wars. That's Kylo Ren. Yeah. I think I know Clayton still listens to our episodes, so he's gonna understand that reference. No one else listening is. But I mean, to a degree, I would disagree with Let It Die. I love how I'm taking this reference seriously now. But I agree with what you were saying about the past.
Let the bad feelings die of the past.
Yeah, or continue to push forward.
Yeah.
Never move. Where else to move but forward? And I think that's the line is when you try to move back too much. You can still revisit without going backwards.
Reminisce, learn from the lessons, and then move forward.
Yeah, it's all about moving forward. Keep moving forward. Patrick, how are we moving forward with well-rounded wealth content? Did you see that segue? Did you see that segue?
I love it.
That was a pretty good
Great
segue.
job. Yeah, look
Thank
at that.
you.
We're getting better at this stuff. Not many new updates. I mean, we're kind of just pushing through the end of the year.
Yeah, with the holiday season, I think it's going to be pretty what we've been doing, more of what we've been doing for the rest of the year.
Yep. So hopefully still talking about brainstorming changes for the next year, but we're in this for the long run, and I love talking about this kind of stuff with you, man, and enjoy these episodes. So
yeah. What are we titling this? I guess still the past, but we talked about a lot.
Well, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. You'll know by the time you're here. It'll be on Spotify with a title. So whatever you're seeing is what we decided. Yeah. But yeah, and also doing the drill. Thank you guys as always for listening. It always means so much. And yeah, always feel free to reach out. I had a couple people reach out very recently about our last episode. So thank you for reaching out. It's always great to hear. We had a good conversation. And yeah, and also if you're new here or haven't done it yet, feel free to like the episode, like the podcast, follow the podcast, follow us on Instagram, do all that good stuff. It helps us get the word out there more, as you guys know. And yeah, I think a lot of you guys have, because we've gotten a lot of follows on Spotify and Apple. So thank you guys so much. And yeah, keep in contact with us, and we'll be posting more bi-weekly. We'll continue it going, and we're so excited about the future.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.